Hey, Stacy.
Hi, Carissa.
Thanks for taking the time to be here. I just wanted to hear your story, and I wanted to learn a bit about how the criminal justice system has impacted your life. So, why don't we start at the beginning? Why don't you tell us who you are and how you got involved with the criminal justice system?
Okay, well, my name is Stacy Burleson. I'm a 48-year-old grandmother, mom of six, grandmother of three. My road to the criminal justice system started a long time ago. My father spent most of my life, he was incarcerated in the criminal justice system, so I never really had a father around. I got involved in, different relationships, getting molested as a child, looking for love. I got into violence relationships. So I ended up leaving one relationship, coming to Albuquerque, New Mexico, getting into another relationship. And even though my father was incarcerated most of my life, I never knew what drugs were, or I never seen what they looked like until I got to the state of New Mexico. Well, so as I got involved in this one relationship, it was in the Kirkland edition. I seen everybody was selling drugs, so I started selling drugs. It was easy. I feel like, being in that domestic violence relationship is really what led me into selling drugs, and also he just continued to lead me to prison. So I left one relationship into another. So I start selling drugs, I get caught, I keep, just like the average criminal, that insane mentality, we keep doing it, because you get caught, you go to jail, you get right back out, you keep doing it. So, long story short, I go to jail. By the time I get sentenced to prison, I have six kids. By then, I have an 18-year-old, I have a 15-year-old, 11-year-old, 8-year-old, and a set of 2-year-old twins. And so, before I get to prison, my father was murdered. It was closed casket. He decomposed. He just was put in the bag, put in the box. Really didn't even get to say goodbye. So after that, my life just really took a turn. I go to prison. I get sentenced to 12 years, so I'm doing 6 years. But I'm okay. I accepted it because I got good family support. What can I do? You do the crime, you do the time. So I get to prison, and as I'm there, I write my son this letter because my son was, getting into trouble, and I told him, you're my oldest child. If anything ever happened to you, I wouldn't be able to go on with life. I wouldn't be able to live without you. And I put it in the mailbox, and my son was murdered that night. And so then I just felt like, I just felt so dead inside, like my life was over. But I had another person, my backbone, my mother. And then by that time, I was mad at God, I was mad at everybody. But, all I needed was my mom. And then 8 months later, my mom died of cancer. But after my son was murdered, I asked for mental health. I was denied mental health. This is why I'm in prison. Mind you, he gets murdered the first day I get there. They told me that my situation was situational. So they're basically, only because of the situation, the reason why you're feeling like this. They take me to my son's funeral, shackles, handcuffs, of course, tell me that I can't talk to anyone. They clear out the first three rows. They take the highest ranking officers, and they take three police guards with them. They make jokes on the way. They have me in this van. I'm just falling around, and as we're getting ready to leave the service, I go to the casket to say goodbye to my son, and they don't even, allow me to touch him, or even just give me the courtesy to just stand there for a moment to say goodbye to him. And so, we go back to prison, whatever. My mother dies of cancer 8 months later. And there you go. So I'm denied. But in prison, I would see the women constantly come back and forth, and I would just be so mad at them and like, God, just give me a chance. Why do they keep coming back? And they're telling me these stories about their POs, about the courts, about the, taking their kids, not being able. And I just didn't believe them. That doesn't happen, right? So finally, I get out of prison, and it does happen. So me getting out of prison, I lost my job after 18 months not because I wasn't showing up, not because I wasn't doing my job. It was because of my background. My car gets stolen. It gets stripped down. Like I said, I lost my job at one point in time. I became homeless. I had to bounce back and forth. My kids had to go back to live with the grandma. Um, grandma takes me to court. My daughter's over the age of 14, has her sign some legal paperwork saying she doesn't want to be with me. The judge strips me of all my rights. Tell me it's my fault because I've been to prison. Now the court system, they want to take me to court for child support. Not only did they take my child from me, they want to take me to court and make me pay child support to this person who they gave my child to. So the reason why I wanted to start the program that I started is because I wanted to help the other women that's incarcerated, that's getting out, especially those that are battling opioid addiction and mental health, because we know for one thing for sure is the prison system, they do not address that. I was in there for 6 years, and I dealt with two back-to-back deaths, my son and my mother, and like I said, I was denied mental health. They told me it was situational. I know that they don't address the substance use, and that's why we feel like the recidivism rate. We know that most of the women that are incarcerated, 80% of women incarcerated are mothers, and so when we get in there, we basically lose our rights to our children. I've gotten out of prison and I've changed my life around, and they still took all my rights to my daughter. It was like a child dying all over again. So that's one of the reasons why I feel like that the recidivism rate is so high, is because the family courts are interfering in these families. Instead of making a family whole, they're tearing the family apart. My kids no longer even have a relationship with each other, and that's the sad part about it. My kids have grown up in a broken home, and partly because of my reason, because of me, my bad, but also as me trying to get myself back together and put my life back together, the courts have been totally against me. The probation and parole, they made it hard for me, trying to now that I've changed my life around, and my crime is so old, it's over 10 years old. So when I apply for an apartment, it doesn't even show up. But now they look at your credit, So it's so many things that's against a person that's getting out of prison. And so that's why I started Women in Leadership, is because I built it around of my needs, and my needs are pretty much the needs of all women. And so I just want to bring awareness to it. My daughter's battling opioid addiction, and so I think about, when I used to sell drugs, and when I used to hurt other families. So I would like to give back and try to change some of that, as I'm going through my different struggles. So that's why I started Women in Leadership, is because I want to help other women that's getting incarcerated, or young women that's getting in trouble, and just provide some type of support group to, to help the women out.
Wow, you have a very just painful and deep history, and you share your story very well. It makes me wonder, how did you find the courage, or what did you need to actually survive that the 6 years you said you served? Well, how did you find the strength to survive that?
God, I pray, if you just give me one chance, to turn my life around. If you just give me another chance, I'll turn my life around, and I'll get out and I'll make a difference, because for one, I accepted it. I accepted responsibility for what I had done. Yeah, there were different things that were along the way that didn't help it, but also a part of accepting responsibility. That's the only way I could try to move on. I felt like, at the time of my tragedies, I was where I was supposed to be, because I had plenty of opportunities to quit. But one thing for sure is I knew I didn't want to go back there. I knew I did not ever want to have another one of my kids buried from behind that wall. And I know that life goes on and people die. So that's my fight. That's where I found the strength, is because my kids are growing up without a grandmother and a grandfather. And that is so valuable when it comes to family, is that some of these kids don't have grandparents. Like I told you, I'm raising my grandkids, but I'm young for a grandmother. Don't get, I am. If you think about it, I'm 48, and so if you think about, grandmothers are supposed to be a lot older, right? But we're having kids at a younger age, and so my daughter being in there having kids, and me being in there not being able to be there for her, is where I found my strength. Is that I knew I had to get out and be the grandmother to my kids as my mother was to my kids.
Yeah, that is so important. You talk about the importance of having a strong family. What would you say to somebody who maybe isn't fortunate to have family in their lives, whether that's because they're not there, because they've passed away, or because they don't they don't agree with their lifestyle? What would you say to those women who are maybe incarcerated or struggling with reentry from incarceration?
I would say find some peer support, find some positive women, and I would say like-minded, but what is like-minded, right? So you want to find some women that that you look up to, that mentor you, or because if if you find some like-minded women and your mind ain't right, you know what I mean, you got to find some women that's gonna uplift you, inspire you, motivate you, want to see you move to the next level, encourage you, and really just let you open up and talk to them and understand. You got to find women that can understand really where you're coming from. And when you have relationships that just are not right, you got to let them go. And that was part of my problem. I have no sisters either, right? So I lost my mother, so my connection with women, I get into bad relationships, both men and women. So I have come to a point in my life where I could let those relationships go because they're not good. And so that's what we as women got to realize also. You got to find good, healthy relationships. That's what you got to find. And also, if you're we don't talk about abstinence enough, so we as women that's getting out, we have to be careful about getting into relationships right away, because we are natural, we love naturally, we're nurturers, we tend to fall in love a lot faster. Our feelings, we're so connected with our feelings, and so you got to be careful about that, because you need to heal, because the world inside there is a whole nother world. Prison is its own little village, its own world. And that's another, when I was in prison, I just totally disconnected from the outside world, because that's the only way that I could survive, because everybody was dying. That's how I felt. Everybody was dying. Every time they called me to the door, I felt like, oh God, they about to tell me somebody else died. So my I would tell women that's getting out, you just got to try to keep a positive mind. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't always that way for me. I had to do a lot of learning. I had to take a lot of losses, a lot of heartbreak, but I'm learning now, and so I only have positive people in my life. If you can't be positive, then you can't be in my life, and that's family, that's anybody.
Right. What's your main message from your position as the executive director of Women in Leadership? What's your main message to get out to other women?
My main message is don't give up. It's never too late to turn your life around. It's never too late to stop, committing crime. It's never too late to get out that bad relationship. It's never too late to stop doing drugs. Just don't give up. Just know your worth. You know what I mean? Fight for what you want and never give up. And don't take no for an answer. And stand up for yourself. You have to stand up for yourself no matter the situation. Sometimes I stand up for myself all the time, and sometimes I find myself like, why you just couldn't just leave it alone? But and that's the problem. We as women, we have to start fighting, because it hasn't been equal for us, and it's certainly not equal being a black woman, and certainly not being a felon. So stand up for yourself. Walk away from situations that don't align with your values. Don't settle for less. A relationship, a friendship, whatever that may be. If it's the job that's not treating you right, find you another job. Get you a skill set. Go get you a degree. Not everybody has to go to college, but if college is where you want to go to college. Get you a skill set. Do something, because you can make it happen. Get your credit right. Get that right, because we need to focus on credit. We need to focus on economics. We need to get our homes right. We need to get right with our kids, with our families, and get on track.
All right. Thank you, Stacy.
You're welcome.